Hello everyone. Today I am going to start with a new chapter, that is the from history, and the chapter is the growth of nationalism. So last time we have discussed about the revolt of 1857. After that particular event, the mindset of the Indians changed, because the myth which was there in the beginning of the revolt, that Britishers are invincible, that came to an end, because in some parts definitely the Britishers were defeated, though we could not suppress the Britishers and they came back again, and they suppressed the revolt, but still in some parts of the country they were suppressed. So it gave instilled people with more and more confidence to let them prove or to understand that Britishers are not they are not invincible, they can even be defeated. So therefore this kind of feeling and this kind of confidence developed among the people with the nationalism in them, or it built the nationalism spirit in the people. So today we are going to discuss about the factors which has led to the growth of nationalism in the people. Okay, so first point, that is the economic exploitation. So again, there were the various factors which has led the people to fight for the nations, no, fight for the nation and the unity and integrity of the nation, and to for the honor and dignity of their country. So the first reason which inspired or motivated people to fight for the nation, that was the economic exploitation, then repressive colonial policies, socio-religious reform movements, and role of press. All these four factors had added more in the people love for the nation and for the development or the growth of nationalism. So the second half of the 19th century witnessed emergence of national political consciousness and strong feeling of nationalism among the people. Factors which contributed, that are the economic exploitation which I have told. Now economic exploitation was not only limited to the peasant class by the Britishers. Okay, it was spread out in various sections in various society of our country. So most of the people of a country were affected economically also. So the problem which these people were facing, due to which it burned out or it turned out into with the anger in the people, and it burst out as the growth of nationalism among the people. How? Let's see. The peasants means the farmers. So the government took a large part of the produce in the form of land revenue and other taxes. The problem which existed in revolt of 1857, that still existed, that a larger part of the people, the farmers production, the produce was taken away from them, and even they were taxed more and more heavily. Then the exorbitant taxes, exorbitant means the extreme taxes which was collected from the peasants, led them into the clutches of landlords and money lenders. So as we know, the extreme taxes which was collected by the Britishers from the farmers, that has led the peasants or the farmers to lend the money from the landlords, to take the money from the landlords. And at what happened after that, if the farmers or the peasants were taking monies from money lenders or landlords, so they had to finally pay the debt along with the interest which was charged for that particular money. So here the farmer was not even able to pay the gross amount, but still the and on top of it the interest amount was also charged. So you can see the farmers were not able to pay both of the money, and ultimately most of the farmers or most of the peasants had to sell their land. So as we can say, most of the farmers were becoming landless, they were not having any land, because they have taken lots and lots of loan and money from the landlords and the money lenders, due to which reason, because of the exorbitant taxes which were imposed by the Britishers. So therefore this made peasant class or the farmer class against of the Britishers. Then the artisans and craftsmen. India became a source of raw materials for the industries of Britain and market for its finished goods. So this particular reason we have seen in revolt also, that now India totally became the source of raw material. All the raw materials was exported to the Britain, because India was becoming the place from where the raw materials was exported and the finished goods were imported in India, and Britishers were selling their manufactured goods in our country at higher rate. So in revolt also we have seen that first of all we had a loss in raw material, because they were purchasing the raw material at cheaper rate from countrymen, from the farmers, and after producing the goods in their country, they were selling as their British goods at the higher rate. So here double loss of Indian was there, which has resulted anger of the artisans and craftsmen. So due to the lot of production, or we can say the factory or machine made goods in our country, has brought lot of unemployment also in our country. How? Because if it has led to the competition between machine made goods and handmade goods. So obviously most of the people used to prefer machine made goods, and people did not like handmade goods. So therefore the selling of, or the sale of handmade goods were reducing. So due to which the artisans or the people, those who were involved in the cottage industries or with the handmade goods industry, so that was declining. And at a moment place came when these cottage industries started to they started to end up, or we can say they were closed, due to which it gave birth to the lot of unemployment in the country. Then the working class. The growth of modern industries led to the birth of a new social class in India, that was the working class. Now, new class, or we can say a new set of people came up with the setting up of the British industries in our country, and that was the working class. Because previously the people, we had either the Britisher peasants or the farm artisans and the craftsmen. But now with the growth of industries, or we can say large scale industries in India by the Britishers, now we were having more and more of the working class people. They were exploited by the factory owners, who were generally Englishmen. So as the Britishers were they had their own industries and their set of rules were there, so therefore they were exploiting Indians as and majority of the people whom they hired in British industries, or the industries which were set up by the Britishers, in that basically most of them the workers belonged to the India, or they were from the they chose the Indians only for their working for the workers in their industries. So due to the various exploitation which was done in the factories, the working class also was not satisfied with the behavior of the Britishers, which was done to the Indians. So they also were having grievances against the Britishers. The educated Indians, the only employment available to the educated Indian was government service, in which competition was high and chances of promotion was bleak. Bleak means it was very, very less. It was more or less even more or less it was like only we can say only Britishers were given a chance to be promoted, not the Indians. So previously they thought that the British capitalism, previously they means the educated Indians thought that the British capitalism would help to develop India's productive forces as it has done for Britain. So previously educated classes thought that if Britishers will stay back in our country, it will bring lots and lots of development only for the country. But actually, later on they found that the British policies which were adopted in our country was keeping India economically backward. So it was working as an adverse. So therefore, the peasants, the craftsmen, artisans, working class, educated Indians, all section of the society was dissatisfied by the rule of the Britishers. Then the repressive colonial policies which was followed by them. So the first the policy which we'll see, which was followed by the Britishers, that was done by the Lord Lytton. What he did? Lord Lytton organized a Grand Delhi Darbar. He organized a Grand Delhi Darbar in the year 1877 just to proclaim Queen of Victoria as the Empress of India. So, just to declare her as the Empress of India, he has organized a very huge and lavish Grand Delhi Darbar. As the name suggests, it was itself very, very grand. And to organize that Grand Delhi Darbar, he has spent lakhs and lakhs of rupees on this particular event. And at the same time, when this grand celebration, this grand organization, everything was organized, at that time in some part of the country, the people were suffering from the famine. So it was told that nothing was done for the people, those who were suffering from famine. Now next is Vernacular Press Act, which is very, very important, children, from the board point of view. It was introduced by Lord Lytton. Do remember to write this particular answer in points only, that it was introduced by Lord Lytton. Why I am emphasizing introduced? Because there is another Lord General also, which we'll be discussing in this particular point only under Vernacular Press Act. So therefore, it was introduced by Lord Lytton. It forbade the vernacular papers. Forbade means it restricted the vernacular papers. What is vernacular papers? Vernacular means local language, and the papers which were the newspapers which were printed in the local languages, those were the forbade it to publish anything against the Britishers which might excite the feelings or which may promote the nationalist feeling among the people against the Britishers. So they were not allowed to print anything against of the Britishers. This act was not applicable to English newspaper. Now the question arises why it was applicable only to the vernacular languages and not to the English newspaper. So it was because most of the Indians or most of the people used to read at that time the local newspapers only or vernacular newspapers only. Very rare, or we can say only the educated Indians were the one those who could read English. So the number of the people those who could read English newspaper was much more less as compared to the people those who were reading vernacular newspaper more. So therefore this was applicable to the vernacular newspapers. Then in 1882 this act was repealed by Lord Ripon. Remember this thing? Frequently this question is asked: who introduced the Vernacular Press Act and who repealed, who ended, who finished the Vernacular Press Act? It was the Lord Ripon. Don't get confused between Lytton and Ripon. Then next point, that is the age limit for civil service examination. Previously the age limit was from 21 years only. The people could give the civil services examination. So what Lord Lytton did, he reduced the age of civil services examination from 21 to 19 years for, and this made people to compete with the competition with the difficulty. With this, the difficulty level of the competition was increased, because the age setup, or we can say the mental development is there at the age of 19 and at the age of 21, that will be quite different, because at 21 age person will be much more matured as compared to the at the age of 19. So therefore the age limit was reduced from 21 to 19 years. Then import duties on the British textile was removed, and it proved harmful for the Indian industries. Now, to bring anything from outside of the country to the Britishers, it was they were not supposed to pay any kind of import duties on that. So that means they were on the profitable situation, no? On the profitable side. Then repression created by the Ilbert Bill. So this is again important. So this bill was created, or it was proposed by, I would say, by Sir C.P. Ilbert. Therefore the name of the bill is Ilbert Bill, okay, who was the law member of the Viceroy Council, and he prepared the bill. Therefore it is known as the Ilbert Bill. So this bill was introduced by the Viceroy Lord Ripon. So it was prepared by Lord C.P. Ilbert, but it was introduced by Lord Ripon. Remember, Vernacular Press Act was introduced by Lord Lytton and it was repealed by Lord Ripon. Here the introduction is done by Lord Ripon. Okay, so according to this act, Indian judges could try Europeans. Europeans included Britishers, Portuguese, Dutch, and the other foreigners, those who came in India, or those who people came from Europe to India. So according to this, an Indian judge, so you remember Britishers assumed Indians as or they made Indians feel that they are the inferiors as compared to the Britishers, because they felt that Britishers are superior and Indians are inferiors. So therefore, according to this act, an inferior judge in the limelight of the Britishers, according to them, the Indian judge who is not capable enough to stand in front of the Britishers, this special power was given to the Indian judges by Sir C.P. Ilbert. According to him, an Indian judge could try Europeans. Could try here means the court proceeding, or the court or any if a crime is done by a European, by a Britisher or any other European, so Indian judge could give its judgment on that particular case. So this particular authority, or the special privilege which somewhat was granted by one of the Britisher to the Indian, was not liked by the other Britishers, and they resented. They were not happy with the such kind of authority which was given to the Indian judges. So it was resented, and it was protested by the Britishers to take this particular Ilbert Bill back. So now what happened? The reaction which provoked counter agitation by the educated Indians. Now when Britishers were pressurizing to take this authority back from the Indian judges, so that led educated Indians provoked educated Indians against of the Britishers, because it was quite insulting for the Indians to take that special authority or the privilege which was given to the Indian judges back. So the government ultimately withdrew the bill and enacted a more moderate measure. So now they have already withdrawn the bill, but on the common standard, on the moderate measure, what they did, the power which vested by the trying to European trial was of the session judge and a district magistrate who might be an Indian. So it was told that in session cases or in the criminal cases, a European judge will listen to the matter, listen to the cases, but for the other matters like the civil matters, the judge can be Indian. So that was the way which was negotiated between Indians and the Britishers. on the Ilbert Bill. Now, socio-religious reform movements. The impact of Western education led to a rational, humanitarian, and scientific approach to the life and made the educated Indians realize the need to reform the religion and society. So, we have seen in during those times there were lots and lots of ill practices which were going in our country, and it was mandatory to bring reforms in that. So there were some of the reformers, those who have taken this special initiative to eradicate those ill feelings and ill practices from our society. So what were those movements which was led by the social reformers? Abolishment of sati, abolishment of caste system, abolishment of child marriage, abolishment of parda system, and abolishment of female infanticide. I hope you know the meaning of infanticide. Infanticide means it means the killing of a new baby born girl baby child. Now the reform movements and the reformers. So first is Brahmo Samaj, and it was started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Then Arya Samaj by the Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Ramakrishna Mission by Swami Vivekanand, Satya Shodhak Samaj by Jyotiba Phule. Learn it, children, it's important. Now Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and what he did and what was his contribution, that is only asked basically in exams. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy was one of the greatest social and religious reformers of the 19th century. He was a very great social reformer. And what he did for the society, in 1828 he founded the Brahmo Sabha, which was later renamed as the Brahmo Samaj. Then he believed in monotheism. Monotheism means worship of one God, not to believe in many God, but he believed that all God is the essence of all God is only one. He started a campaign for the abolishment of sati and parda system. It was because of his effort Lord William Bentinck, the Governor General of India, passed a law in the year 1829. Very important, children. Even this question is important for civil services examination. Various times in many competitive exams also this question is asked. So about abolishment of sati. So in 1829, making the practice of sati illegal and punishable by law. So, in which year abolishment of sati was done? In 1829. By whom? With the help of Lord William Bentinck and Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Then he also condemned polygamy, discouraged child marriages, and advocated the right of widows to remarry. So, what is polygamy? Polygamy is getting married to more than one woman. So, basically, we can say he had done a lot for the upliftment of the woman. Jyotiba Phule. His actual name was Jyoti Rao Govind Rao Phule, but we popularly know him as Jyotiba Phule. He was an Indian social activist, thinker, anti-caste social reformer, and writer from Maharashtra. His work extended to many fields, including eradication. Eradication means removal of untouchability and the caste system, and women's emancipation. Emancipation means women upliftment. Other names were of Jyotiba Phule was Mahatma Phule, Jyotiba Phule, or Jyotirao Phule. We know him from these names also, by these names also. Now, the contribution which he made to towards the society, he founded the Satya Shodhak Samaj in 1873 with the aim of securing social justice for weaker section of society. He pioneered the widow remarriage movement in Maharashtra. He initiated the widow remarriage movement in Maharashtra and worked for the education of women. Phule started his first school for girls in 1848 in Pune. He wanted to liberate depressed class and make them aware of their rights by educating them. So basically he has worked for the depressed class and about their education, as well as about the education of girl child, as well as he has worked for the more for social justice of the weaker section of the society. So that was the contribution of Jyotiba Phule. Now contribution overall of the social religious movement to the one set, how the unity it brought, or how it gave impetus to the Indian national movement. First, it was by the proclamation of the superiority of Indian culture. Due to the social religious movement, people realized that the Indian culture is also quite superior, because Britishers have always ill treated us, and we could not understand our capability, or the rich heritage. We could not understand the rich heritage which belongs to the Indian culture. So now, due to which we started feeling proud of our rich Indian culture. Now, due to the reforms, it condemned untouchability and caste system, and it led to give the dignity to the woman and the rights to the weaker section of the society. Then it gave importance and upliftment to women, as we discussed. Then they promoted the spirit of nationalism, and it created the consciousness of a new society. Which new society? A new reform society, in which the place was given to the women also, the weaker section society also, and all the people were treated equally. Then role of the press, how important the role of the press has been in developing or instilling the growth of nationalism among the people. Newspaper played a significant role in developing a strong national sentiment among the Indians in the following manner. It was through the press that the message of patriotism and modern liberal ideas of liberty, freedom, equality, home rule, and independence spread among the people. So the ideas, the new concept of equality, fraternity, and freedom, all this was circulated. All this could be possible through the press only. It carried on daily criticism of the unjust policies of the British government. Whichever the rules and policies which was adopted by the Britishers, it daily criticized those unjust policies which was adopted by the Britishers, and it has exposed the true nature of the British rule in India. What actually Britishers were doing and what they wanted to do, that was exposed by the Indian newspapers only. It made possible the exchange of views among different parts of the country. If we could have to communicate from one part of the country to the another part of the country, so this was the only medium of communication, or fastest medium of communication was through newspaper. Then it made Indians aware of what is happening in the world. The awareness of the world, the happenings or the events which were taking around the world, we could be aware of due to the press itself. Then some of the prominent newspapers were Amrit Bazar Patrika. It's important, children, learn all this. These names: the Bengali, the Tribune, the Pioneer, the Times of India, the Hindu, and the Statesman. These were the newspaper which were coming since 19th century, which has really contributed in the growth of nationalism. Then next part of this particular chapter, children, I'll be uploading it later. So read the chapter and learn all the